I don't like these movies.
Get real.
And I saw that movie 20 goddamn times!
I watch a lot of movies. Yeah, a lot of movies are the best movies.
And it's so much fun! And
Oh, this movie's too complicated.
So, once again, no smoking in this theater.
Do you have a name for this thing that lives inside of you?
Hello and welcome back to another week of Idle Film Club.
Hello,
I'm Gio,
I'm Callum.
and as you can maybe tell, I have a sore throat today.
This is going to be fun for the listener.
I don't think it'll sound that bad, so bear with me.
We'll run it through some AI technology to make you sound less ill.
Kanye West. Auto-tune.
Auto-tune. What are we talking about today on this episode of Idle Film Club, your Brain Rock Girlfriend's favourite film podcast?
We are talking about the amazing Late Night with the Devil.
Coming up, it's television's spookiest night in a special Halloween edition of Night Owls with Jack Delroy.
Horror movie of the year so far. I know we're only 3 months in.
AI extravaganza.
AI extravaganza, correct. Lots to talk about with this movie. We saw it in the cinema.
We had a great time watching this.
It's great. Hopefully by the time this comes out, it might still be in the cinema.
Heavily recommend that you go and see
Heavily
it.
recommend. We're going to spoil it in this podcast, so
Please go and watch it before listening.
yeah, it's a found footage horror. So if that's your sort of vibe, definitely check it out. It's fantastic.
But yeah, so I'll do my little overview as always, just to give you a bit of background if you haven't seen the movie. So, Late Night with the Devil came out, as we said, in 2023, directed by Colin and Cameron Cairns, produced by Shudder, which was nice to see that in a cinema.
Yeah, surprising. I knew this was a Shudder film, so I was surprised that it got a theatrical release.
Yeah, usually Shudder is straight to Shudder. You don't usually see that in the cinema, so that was nice.
I am hoping that they maybe give it a proper VOD release and not just put it behind a paywall on Shudder. It'd be nice to see it on Prime's main channel.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it gets a physical release. I would imagine so.
Oh, I think it'll get a physical release.
It'd be nice if we get a little cute boutique Blu-ray.
Yeah, it is something someone like Second Sight would release. They released Host, which is also a Shudder release. Oh, they had a nice little box set of that. So hopefully this gets a boutique Blu-ray box set from Second
Do you have
Sight.
that?
Yes.
Lovely.
Well, it's nice.
So this movie is a 15. Nice to see a sort of supernatural horror.
Supernatural.
A supernatural horror, but obviously doesn't rely too hard on the gore. Obviously that's generally my preference, but I had a thoroughly great time watching this. You're more into found footage than I am generally.
I'm more into found footage than you are, but by no means am I a found footage head at all. There are some people who watch any shows,
Yeah.
but no, I love the Blair Witch Project.
It sits at a very tight 1 hour and 26 minutes.
Perfect.
I think it knows exactly when to start and when to leave, which is the best thing you can say about a movie. Had a fairly modest budget of $6.6 million. It was nice to see something with a budget like this that looked visually so great.
Yeah, it did look fantastic.
Bearing in mind a movie like Madam Web, I know I always bring that up, but $80 million was in that movie.
Those movies are money laundering schemes.
Looked like garbage. So critics at the moment have had a very, very favourable reaction to this movie, sitting at a 7.5 on IMDb. Rotten Tomatoes is at 97% with a 72 Metascore. So I think it's fair to say that people are buzzed about this movie, and as they should be.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Don't miss the television event of the year, tonight on Night Owls with Jack Delroy.
Shall I recap the plot for you?
Go for it.
Jack Delroy is the enigmatic host of a late-night talk show called Night Owls. The film shows the original broadcast, plus behind-the-scenes footage of the 1977 Halloween special. The special includes psychic Christu, a famous ex-magician-turned-skeptic Carmichael the Conjurer, parapsychologist author June Ross Mitchell and her subject Lily, who they claim is the host to a demon named Abraxas. Lily, by the way, is portrayed fantastically by a young actress. We'll get into that later.
Yeah, Ingrid Torelli. She is absolutely, as is all the supporting cast to be fair, absolutely amazing.
June says that everyone has a demon inside them, but we can't always control them, can we?
The show plays out with a few disturbing and seemingly unplanned hiccups. We learn that Lily was the sole survivor of a satanic cult mass suicide, and that she can conjure the spirit inside her that she calls Mr. Wriggles, which is an obvious nod to The Exorcist when Reagan calls the demon Captain Howdy.
Captain Howdy said no.
Captain who?
Captain Howdy.
There's a lot of some more and less oblique references to The Exorcist in this.
which, you got to love. This is a better Exorcist
Gotta
movie
give it up.
than Exorcist Believer.
Oh, without a doubt.
Jack convinces June to allow Lily to conjure Mr. Wriggles on live television, which doesn't go according to plan, as the demon claims to have met Jack before under the tall trees, which is a reference to the fact that Jack is part of the Hollywood club of the Grove, or Bohemian Grove, as I knew it.
You knew more about that going into it than I did. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a... Well, not so much these days, but when I was a late teenager, I was into a bit of conspiracy, bit of Jeffrey Epstein
Yeah, I was
shit.
going to say you like sort of Under the Silver Lake and...
Oh yeah, I like expose films as well. As
Eyes
well
Wide
as
Shut.
Yeah, and I like real life sort of Hollywood, I don't know, Pizzagate shit. Lily levitates and her face mutates as she talks in a very Reagan from The Exorcist-esque manner, sort of like how you sound today.
Yeah, very sexy.
Can you say your mother sucks cocks in hell?
I don't think my voice can stretch that far.
The skeptical Carmichael tries to prove this is all a hoax by hypnotising Jack's sidekick Gus, who's sort of like Guillermo from, is it Fallon or the other one? One of those fucking dickheads. Jimmy.
Dunno. The comic relief.
Yeah, he's like, oh, hi Jimmy.
Who's Adam Sandler's fat mate who
Kevin James.
Kevin James, who's just there to fall down.
Yeah, he's fat funny man who falls down.
Farts and...
I quite like Gus. I think he's funny.
Oh no, he's much better than that, but he is that punching bag.
Yeah. So yeah, he hypnotises Gus and causes everyone in the studio and viewers at home to see worms coming out of Gus's body. After this, June, Lily's surrogate mother, I guess, asked them to rewind the footage of Lily's episode, and unlike Gus, we learn there was no hypnosis involved and it actually happens. And at this point, we start seeing visions of Jack Delroy's late wife.
Who died of cancer.
She died of lung cancer, having never smoked in mysterious circumstances. Oh. And shit just starts hitting the fan, really. Jack goes into like a dreamlike, nightmarish version of the show, which we can also get into a bit later. But in terms of the plot, it sort of ends and we've learned that everyone in the studio is dead. Lily's been stabbed.
In the vision, he stabs his late wife,
Yeah.
but actually he comes out of the trance or whatever alternate universe it is, and it turns out that he stabbed Lily.
And yeah, the movie ends. It's really good.
Yeah.
I probably haven't done it justice with that.
I loved this movie.
It's great. I think the framing device of the fact that it is the actual broadcast we're seeing, and when it cuts to the ad breaks, we're seeing behind the scenes footage of what's going on in the show. So you see like the behind the scenes showrunners and the production hands and the makeup artists and sort of what goes into a late night television show. But as they're having, late night with the devil, there's a demon on the broadcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for a live television first as we attempt to commune with the devil.
They do a really good job of visually showing that by all of the footage that's not actually the footage that is going out is in black and white, which I'm not sure, maybe back then, would they have only reserved the colour stock for the broadcast?
I think it's almost like a consumer grade sort of stock.
Right.
And it's shot all like handy cam, I guess. It's shot very free flowing, where obviously when it's the broadcast, it's shot like a late night show.
Yeah.
And they do a great job of making it look like an actual episode of, the Dick Cavett Show or Letterman or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, late night TV in the UK is...
Not a thing.
No, it's not a thing. And it's also, in America, it is a fundamental institution of American television.
Yeah.
And in the UK, obviously, it was cool to see something like that because obviously you see a lot of clips online of like celebrities that go on late night talk shows and stuff. But this shit has been around for almost as long as television as we know it has been around.
And yeah, if you're listening to this and you're not from the UK, we don't have those sort of shows over here.
There's a few examples like Jonathan Ross or like Alan Carr, but
that'll be on a Saturday night though, or a Friday night, whereas these guys are on every single night of the week.
And also they're much, much later, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like 11 o'clock at night sort of thing.
I wonder what the market for that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we have as much focus on celebrity over here as they do over there.
True. But yeah, the use of the TV show is also done to great effect in terms of pacing and the structure of the narrative. So every time the tension ramps up, you then get a, we'll be right back after this commercial break.
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back after these messages.
and it does such a fantastic job of getting your
It edges
excitement.
you.
Yeah, it does. Gooning.
It is gooning.
For all you gooners out there, you're going to love this. You liked this movie less than I did, I think.
I really loved the framing device so much, and I do wish they were a bit more faithful to it, because
Yeah.
it opens up fantastic opening where it's sort of a
It's
preamble.
so hokey, it's
It
so
is.
good.
It's just, it feels like you're watching a documentary where they're like talking about, oh, this is the broadcast from the Halloween special. And they delve into Jack Delroy and his history.
Yeah, I mean, the crux of the movie hangs on David Dastmalchian's performance in this. He is absolutely amazing.
He's fucking fantastic in this.
Now, as you know, here on Night Owls, we think it's very important to keep an open mind.
He's one of those actors where he'll crop up in a lot of different things. Prisoners that we watched recently. He's in that Suicide Squad remake.
He's in the Batman movies, the Chris Nolan ones.
Yeah, and he always plays. He's a bit like Paul Dano.
Yeah, he's a Paul
He
Dano
he
type.
always plays weird. He's a character actor.
Yes.
He always plays odd little oddball characters. But I liked him a lot in that Suicide Squad movie, and I think that's what sort of put him on my radar. And
Yeah.
I've sort of retrospectively seen a lot of things with him in it. But he is fantastic in this.
Because there is something a bit uncanny about late night presenters where they're a bit too friendly. I think that about Jimmy Fallon all the time, where they're just a bit too nice.
Yeah, I think that is a testament to America. I think it's a bit of a cultural difference. But going into that, when the two directors were asked why they decided to use a late night talk show as the centre of the film, they said, in the 70s and 80s, there was something slightly dangerous about late night TV. Talk shows in particular were a window into some strange adult world. We thought combining that charged live to air atmosphere with the supernatural can make for a uniquely frightening film experience.
Yeah, and true they were. It works really well.
David Dastmalchian was cast after they read an article he wrote for Fangoria about late night TV talk show hosts.
That's great. I would be very interested to read that.
Yeah, I tried to find it online when I was doing research for this, and maybe it was just in the print edition of Fangoria. Maybe I didn't look hard enough, I'm not sure. He was basically then sent a lookbook and accepted the role. I think he's cast brilliantly. He's a massive horror fan, apparently, and I think you can tell.
He plays into that. He's just a great leading actor.
He is, and I think he has that perfect balance of being genuinely nice, but also there's a darkness about him. And I think all of the roles he plays, he is like that, where there's just something not quite. And he looks like he's from the 70s.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And the costume design and all of the production design in this movie is amazing.
It is.
But the costumes specifically are so good. I know you mentioned that you felt like Lily had a bit of Instagram face, but for the most part...
Yeah, that girl's seen an iPhone.
But for the most part, and she sounds like Sydney Sweeney, which was very off-putting.
Who are you?
What is going on?
Who are you? What is going on?
Who are you? What is going on?
But for the most part, for such a low-budget production, there was not one moment where I did not believe that this was not in the 70s.
100%. And I really do wish that they weren't afraid for it to be as much of a found footage as it was. I just wish the behind-the-scenes black and white footage, I almost wish they'd acknowledged that there was someone there filming them, because it almost felt like a movie, those bits, right?
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a documentary. It didn't feel like you were a fly on the wall. It felt a bit more like you were watching a movie. I wish someone had acknowledged the camera and be like, fuck off, turn that shit off, sort of thing. And also, the end gets very artsy, and it drops entirely the pretense that you're watching a documentary, which... From the prologue, that's what it's framed as. It's framed as a documentary, and we lose that by the third act.
It is odd. I enjoyed the movie so much that I sort of gave the ending a pass. I would be interested to rewatch it. When it comes out, I definitely will go back and revisit it. I have not smiled so much in the cinema in a very long time.
It is a lot of fun. Speaking of smiling and that, I've just got to mention the practical effects.
Amazing. They're so hokey.
Yeah.
And they are fabulous. I will add a caveat and say this movie won't be for everyone. It is a little bit... What's the word I'm looking for?
Camp?
Yeah, I was thinking camp, but it harkens back to an old style of horror that we don't see very often. It reminded me a lot of the practical effects, especially. They're very Tom Savini-esque. The one particular scene where Gus rips open his chest and all the worms come out. You can very clearly see that the prosthetics don't quite match the colour of his skin, but
You mentioned Kevin Bacon's
Bacon,
death
yeah.
in Friday the 13th.
which I would rather see that 100 times over than CGI nonsense.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think if it wasn't that, they couldn't retain the 15 rating. If they made it look really realistic and like his guts start spewing out and stuff, I genuinely don't think they could have maintained that 15. So maybe that is a factor for it.
Yeah, I think so. And usually, for me, if I look back on all of my favourite horror films, I'm 99% sure that none of them are a 15. I like a bit more extremity in my horror, whereas I think you're more happy to have.
Yeah, I'm nonplussed.
But this, for me, it didn't need gore.
No, it didn't. I almost think, because that scene is set up to be that we are hypnotised seeing this. This isn't actually happening.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that is audiences in the 70s, that would have been their frame of reference for how that would have looked.
Yeah.
You know, they
Yeah.
haven't seen CGI, they haven't seen detail. If they're being hypnotised to be like, this man's ripping worms out of his chest, maybe that would have been their frame of reference, was hokey horror movies that they'd seen or low budget things that they'd seen. Yeah. I'd like to know whether that was a factor, because that's my theory. But
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, as I said, it harkens back to an old era of horror. It is obviously very heavily inspired by The Exorcist, but I also think it owes a lot to the talk show element, King of Comedy, Joker, things like that.
Right? Yeah. Oh, Jerry, I love this guy. Always coming up with these great lines.
Well, it really reminded me of Ghostwatch, the 1992 BBC Halloween special, which if you're into horror, you probably are at least semi-familiar with. And we rewatched that actually before recording today, because I hadn't seen it in a couple of years. George hadn't seen it before, so I wanted to watch it before recording. And that's the thing, Ghostwatch never ever drops the pretense that it's real. What you're seeing is being broadcast.
Sarah, stay where you are, please. Sarah, stay there, please. Don't go upstairs.
Why?
Because we hear that Susanna's got out of bed, but she's not yet
Stay
appeared.
here, I don't know why.
She's not appeared on the landing.
I also think that is slightly different.
In what way?
In the sense of this was broadcast on BBC and it's framed as if you don't see behind the scenes stuff.
It was a live broadcast. That's
But I completely get what you mean.
At no point do they ever drop the act up until the final credits.
Yeah, I think it was more... I enjoyed the movie so much that the narrative framing device and the TV show element, it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It is something that I completely acknowledge. When I think more about it, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't really get why they did that, or, you know...
Yeah, just sorry to interrupt, but basically what we're talking about is at the end, Jack slips into a sort of trance-like state, and it's shot in high def as well. It no longer looks like a TV broadcast, it's shot widescreen, telescope or whatever, and he's reliving moments from the show that we've seen earlier in the prologue. Yeah, it's just confusing, and it's clearly in his head. This isn't part of the broadcast that people saw. This is in Jack's head now.
It's an odd choice to make when the framing device has been an expose on this night.
Yeah, and it switches on a dime as well. It's not like it goes...
I think it was so stark and so heavily contrasted that for me it worked.
Yeah.
If you thought that it didn't work, it's a valid criticism. But I liked 95% of this movie so much that it didn't bother me.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I even think the ending's great. I think I don't dislike it. I just think it would have been, as someone who
Stick the landing.
Yeah, I guess so. Or just
Commit to the bit.
Commit to the bit. Come up with something a bit more clever than what you did.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the CGI brain laser electricity shit.
No, not me neither, to be honest.
But again, that's...
Yeah, at the end, Lily's head sort of opens up and splits in half. And she's harnessing electricity and shit and zapping people, I think. And it sounds shit.
Zap.
Zap, zap, zap.
And it does sound hokey what we're saying, and it looks hokey, but not hokey enough for me.
You can't do that practically.
No, you
and I
can't.
think you should have chosen something a bit more
grounded
in reality.
I love that idea of, like, as it was happening, I was like, oh god, this is fucking terrifying.
The hypnotism stuff is great.
Yeah, when they're like, right, we're gonna...
It's very Cronenberg, visceral. Like, can you imagine ripping open your stomach and you're fucking full of worms?
Yeah.
Like, that is That's rotten.
I love, and I found it really scary, the stuff where they're like, we're going to summon Abraxas, the demon, or whatever. Was he Mr. Jangles? Or
Mr. Wiggles.
Mr. Wiggles. Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Wiggles. And then it cuts to commercial, and he's like, we're going to, for the first time on live TV, we're going to try and summon a demon sort of thing. And it's like, whoa, what the fuck?
Then parapsychologist June Ross Mitchell introduces us to Lily, the subject of her book, Conversations with the Devil.
Yeah, I guess we'll get into that now. It's a good time to segue. The tension in this movie is so well done because from the beginning, Jack's character is sort of set up where he's framed as a good guy. His ratings are struggling, but he's good at what he does and he's entertaining to watch. He does the great like hand gestures. And again, he just absolutely transforms into this role and it's so good. But every time the commercial break comes in, you're like, oh no, don't worry, he's not going to let this get any further. And then every single time he gets some bit of positive feedback or something, like the ratings are going up, people are loving it. And he just loses all of the principles that you think that he has from the beginning of the show. There's a subplot with him and June having sort of like it's never explicitly stated, but they're either fucking or they're
That's
sort
a nice
of
way of putting it.
romantically involved or something. But I also think the implication is that he's still longing for his dead wife.
Would you stop going on about your fucking dead wife?
Yeah, and his guilt. Because basically it's implied at the end that he goes to the Grove and he's a member of the Bohemian Grove, which is out in, I think, Hollywood. It's basically like a massive owl statue and it's in the woods and it's an exclusive club that I think Nixon was a part of.
I was going to say, when I did a very, very brief search on this, I remember Nixon coming up.
Yes.
He was the only person I can remember, but a lot of presidents and like influential people at that time.
And it was an all-boys club.
Yeah, women were only allowed, and women and minors were allowed until like 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And then they all had to vacate the premises, so obviously some shady shit.
And it's crazy because as soon as he mentioned Bohemian Grove, I turned to George and I was like, what the fuck? And they actually do, they show the owl statue, those are all real photos of the Grove. And I thought that was pretty brave. And I know like I said before, I'm pretty conspiratorial and I do love a good real life. Oh, could this be, they're reptilians and they worship Baal and fucking...
Yeah, and I think it is done in a way that actually that's a natural progression for that character.
Oh, 100%. It's very realistic, more than like... we always say you got a buggle problem. It's very real, and I find that shit scary, which is why I like it.
Yeah, it is very threatening.
It reminded me of, like you said, before movies like Eyes Wide Shut, and there's another movie, The Scariest 61st, which is about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and shit like that.
Things like
I
that
love.
are very real, and there's something inherently scary about people that we make famous abusing their power. That is an inherently frightening concept.
And also the idea that everyone is in on it. Everyone knows it's an inside secret.
Well, this is what
you're going to do, phone the police. The police are in on it.
This is what we said about Neon Demon. Celebrity is something that we, as the layman, we are not privy to.
Of course not.
And we don't know what happens. I'm not a particularly conspiratorial person. However, I do think things like that, there is something very scary about that.
And also the idea that if you look into it, bad things are going to happen. And to get back to Late Night, Jack is part of this Grove club, and it's implied that he sacrificed his wife, is what's implied, because she gets lung cancer and they say, oh, she's never smoked a cigarette in her life and she's got aggressive lung cancer. And it's basically, I think, implied that for fame and fortune, he signed a deal and made a sacrifice, because there's even a sacrificial knife involved which he stabs his wife
with. It's implicated that it was maybe Abraxas that he made
100%.
the deal with.
I think because at one point when they summon Abraxas on
Night
Owls, Lily, who is the host of the demon, turns to Jack and he's like, I know you from the tall trees, under the tall trees. And they show pictures of the Grove at the start, which is in a wooden area.
Good to see you again, Jack.
Lily, return to me.
I thought at the beginning of the movie it was going to be that, because as soon as she got ill, I was like, oh, this is his fault. I thought it was going to be that he basically made a deal and that she would get ill and that would increase his popularity by the exposure that came with that. I mean, that could be the case.
Oh, it could be, because...
But I don't think he ever did it with the intention of her becoming ill.
I think he did.
You did?
Yeah.
Mm.
I think he regrets it. And the guilt follows him around.
Yeah.
But this is what I mean. And it plays into his character so well because there is that at all times, like I said, uncanny. Oh, is this guy for real? Or is this... Because you're a late night host, your personality is always...
Somewhat artificial. And you don't know those people, but you spend so much time with people like Letterman or Jimmy Fallon. People think that, oh yeah... And he always says, like, thank you for letting me in your living room.
And thank you for allowing me into your living rooms once again.
It's the parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
And we have that to the nth degree today with social media. People feel like they know these people. It's like, we don't know fucking anything about these people. All that we know about these people is what they choose to present us.
Exactly. And I think it was so well done because it could have been such an easy thing to do. When you cut to the behind the scenes, he's like an asshole.
Mm.
And, you know, he's a dick.
But
and then
he's
when
not.
the camera's rolled, he's like, oh, welcome back, everyone. But he's not.
But that's scarier.
Yeah, because I don't know this man. And as it goes along throughout the show, his veil starts to drop and he starts to snap at guests a bit. Like, he snaps at Carmichael a couple of times. At the start, when Carmichael, the skeptic, starts weighing in on these issues.
He is a dick.
He is a dick, but at the start, Jack's very much like, oh, you know, you'll get your turn. But at the end, he's like, shut up.
I think also shit hits the fan. See, I actually think that he sold his soul or whatever he did to Abraxas in order to get fame. I actually don't think that he did it with the intention of killing his wife. I think he didn't realise that that was going to happen. That's my take. And
Does his wife at the end not say something like, you did this, you knew what was happening? And he has a sacrificial dagger that he literally sacrifices his wife with at the end in his brain.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that as more of a symbolic thing.
Yeah, but symbolic of the fact he sacrificed his wife, no?
But I saw it more as nothing comes without a price.
That could be the case. Very well could be the case. Now you say that, yeah, probably, maybe.
But again, you don't know. And that's what makes it so good. That was just the way I took it, because I do genuinely think that he was not a nice guy, but I do think that the way that he treated people, I don't think that he was like evil. I just think that...
I think he was hungry for fame.
And I think he used and abused people to get that. But I do genuinely think he loved his wife.
Yeah, no. It's very interesting because in the prologue we see his wife 2 weeks before she dies goes on Night Owls. And, you know, they say, oh, it's the most viewed episode of Night Owls ever, but it still didn't beat out Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, you know what I mean? And he brought his dying wife on, which is, whether he knows it or not, that's up for debate, I guess. He's sacrificed his wife.
Yeah.
And he still can't beat it out, and it's like, what more does he got to do? And then he starts fucking summoning a demon on live television.
It is crazy.
And at no point does he want to stop. He wants to go through with this.
He wants those ratings.
Of course he does. It's the only thing he cares about.
Yeah.
We all know how important it is to keep our sponsors and affiliates happy, but in my humble opinion, there is only one person who really matters in this whole darn crazy business. And that is you, our viewer.
But I do think that once his wife dies, because he takes time off and then he sort of comes back. I think they say something like he came back early.
It was a month.
A month. Was that it?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I rewatched this, I might change my opinion. But I guess what I like about it is that it doesn't spell it out for you. It's up to interpretation. And for you to say, okay, you thought it was intentional, like, yeah, okay, that's absolutely fine. I went into it and I thought, it's the price of fame. That's sort of what I saw it more as. But again...
more thematically.
Yeah, and the fact that you can make up whatever opinion you want. I love that.
Oh, no, it's for a movie that is 70s and hokey and a bit kitsch and a bit gimmicky, I guess you could say it's gimmicky. It plays its cards surprisingly close to its chest and is a well-written movie and a smart movie.
And also, I think it's held up by every single character. Supporting character, bit character is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that creepy person in that skull costume.
Oh, yeah.
A few times you just sort of cut to them in the crowd and they never say anything. And you just will see them in the back of a shot.
Mm-hmm.
That's creepier than
Yeah.
It's someone in a silly little costume, but there's something so unnerving about it. I wouldn't say I was scared watching this movie, but I was like,
No, it gives you the heaps.
like, what's gonna happen? Like, you just don't know where it's going.
I think it'd be a great movie for a watch party.
Yes, I think it will be even better on rewatch.
Yeah, and maybe even not in the cinema. Maybe at home it'd be better. Yeah, no, if you want something to watch this Halloween, maybe
yes.
save late night and watch it with your friends.
This restored my faith a little bit in the horror genre.
Well, that's good.
I think Australia has put out some... Talk to Me was probably my favourite movie of that year. I think it was one of the best things that I've seen in modern horror. And this movie has such an energy about it, which I haven't seen in a long time, to be honest.
It's very anarchic.
It reminded me of the Evil Dead remake in the sense of this feels like it's going to be a pillar of horror.
I really hope so, and I hope it doesn't get undermined by what I guess we can go into now, which is the controversy that surrounds this movie. And this is the fact that there are 3 title cards that come up after ad breaks, which are like, welcome back to Night Owls. But yeah, they're either before the ad breaks or after the ad breaks. And they were AI generated, which is shitty.
Yeah, people have been losing their marbles over this. And
people have been calling for a boycott of this movie.
Which is, in my opinion, absolutely fucking ridiculous, and these people need to get a grip. But I do fundamentally disagree with the use of AI in films. I can understand why people are so upset about it. It's such a shame because this movie is excellent and the effort and time that went into the production design on such a small budget is very, very commendable. And I can understand for something with a small budget, like we made a joke at the beginning of the movie, there are so many fucking production
Oh my god,
logos.
it's like the Family Guy bit.
Someone's coming to town.
All right, let's see what you got, Fox. Oh, I bet that's a sea monster. Oh, that's not the movie. Yeah, I think I heard of them. Here we go. Movie! Well, now that seems intentionally misleading. All right, someone's coming to town. Oh, for crying out loud.
There were about 7 production logos, I think, at the start of this.
Honestly, maybe more. It was absurd.
It was so funny.
It was about 2 minutes of production.
We make this joke every time. I make this joke basically every time I watch a movie, especially like things like horror movies. A lot of the production logos that come up, other than that fucking awful Blumhouse Avengers style highlight reel. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch any fucking new Blumhouse movie and they've got that stupid... It's got like The Purge and... it's fucking shy. Jason Blum, you...
You're bought into the hype.
Yeah, can you not do that? Anyway, a lot of these like hokey horror production companies...
They have very elaborate logos.
We're going to have to take a quick break, folks. When we come back, though, one of the old friends of our show who always...
As I said, this movie is so dedicated to the aesthetic that it is a shame for people to come out of this movie with the only thing to bring up is the use of AI, because it's so small. I knew going into it that there was AI in the movie. I didn't know what scenes it was, and I couldn't tell. So personally, it didn't bother me. I mean, you're a graphic designer by trade.
Yeah, I'm a graphic designer.
It's lazy, and it's not something that I think we should be endorsing.
No, not at all. And it's what I'm frustrated with is how easy it would be to get around. It's so... You could have hired...
I could have done that.
Hire a graphic design intern. It's so obvious what you want the look to be. You want it to look like a 70s title card. And just download a couple stock assets.
Yeah.
Whack something together. Even better, maybe fucking pay yourself slightly less and hire a fucking graphic designer to actually do a good job.
It's very disappointing.
And it's really annoying for a movie like this that it's undermined it. And people are review bombing it. And it is a race to see who can be the most upset. I saw someone on Letterboxd, their review, say that they cried in the cinema when they realised that they like people think you're like crossing a picket line if you go see this movie, which honestly, don't let the minority make you feel bad for going to see this movie. It's a work of art. It just happens to have 3 AI stills in it. Like, yeah, it's shitty, but also this movie isn't going to be the catalyst. People aren't going to go, whoa, Late Night with the Devil used it and that was a smash hit. So now I'm gonna fire all my writing stuff and use ChatGPT to write, Captain Marvel 4.
Oh my fucking god, do you remember when we were scrolling on Amazon and they had that Twilight AI.
Oh yeah, there's an AI film that came out. Well, as I often do, I'm a big fan of just scrolling through movies, watching trailers on like Prime or Netflix or whatever. I like trying to find shit because I'm a big schlock auteur. And there's this movie that's like an AI adaptation of Twilight, and it looks fucking amazingly bad.
And I think things like that give me faith that the robots aren't taking over.
I mean,
yet.
just look at I know it's old hat, but the Willy Wonka experience thing.
Yeah.
It's shite.
You have to have creativity behind these people.
And yeah, no, we should draw a line in using AI. And yeah, maybe it is this movie where we go, oi, yeah, can you not do that because it's fucking immoral.
And also I think what people took issue with, and I do very much agree with this, they added those stills after it premiered by South by Southwest.
Oh.
So I think they knew that they were going to get backlash with it.
It's pretty shitty, and it's shitty to the production designers and the set decorators and the people who actually gave a shit, the costume designers.
This is what the directors said. In conjunction with our amazing graphics and production design team, all of whom worked tirelessly to give this film the 70s aesthetic we had always imagined, we experimented with AI for 3 still images, which we edited further and ultimately appear as very brief interstitials in the film.
So the AI generated it and then edited it. Why the fuck? Who found out about this, by the way? How did this even come out? Because I would keep that fucking stum if it was me.
Well, I would imagine they probably didn't go shouting about it, and I'm guessing maybe someone on the production... I don't know. I am not sure. But, I mean, David Dastmalchian said, so I think Cameron and Colin, the directors, said it really well, and I stand by what they said. And I completely stand by this movie as a thoroughly original piece of work that so many, many hours went into this incredible artistic craftsmanship to be set in this world. So it's a good conversation to have. It's an important conversation. We've got to have it.
Yes, and I think the main problem, obviously, like they clearly mention originality, which is what everyone's problem is with AI is it's basically...
Recycle.
It's theft.
Yeah.
Is what it is. And, you know, you type in generate spooky skeleton and yeah, it's going to generate you a skeleton that
because
someone else is based on someone else's art that you've just stolen. So yeah, it's incredibly shitty. However, I really don't want it to undermine the work of craftsmen that did work on this movie. This isn't... The script, it's not an AI movie.
No.
And it's being framed as that by virtue signalling losers, crybabies.
Go and watch that
Sorry,
fucking...
I don't mean to sound like fucking Jordan Peterson, but...
Go and watch that fucking J-Lo movie, and you'll get a very clear representation of when AI is used to combat laziness and lack of ideas.
That's the thing. It was so easily avoidable.
Yeah, and it's very frustrating because like you said, it's just such a shame if you go and watch this movie and your takeaway is that you're indignant over the fact that stills of AI were used in this movie.
It's cultural Marxism.
Anyway, we're not here to shit on snowflakes because it is a valid criticism and it is disappointing and I wish they hadn't done it.
Hypnotist Carmichael Haig puts the audience and yours truly in a spine-chilling trance.
So much time and effort was put into the concept of the movie. So, for example, the character of Carmichael was based on a real-life psychic debunker. So I think there was a lot of attention paid to giving the concept of the late-night talk show and the psychic... paranormal stuff. It gives it a sense of verisimilitude because this guy was based on someone called James Randi. He was basically a psychic debunker who offered money to people who could disprove or prove veritable
supernatural occurrences.
Exactly. June is not struggling, but she's an author who has basically documented Lily's life and she is a scholar. So again, that sort of ties into the fact that she has a genuine reason for wanting this to be put out there and wanting this to be perceived.
And she is very much like the character in Ghostwatch as well.
Yeah, 100%.
That is joining Michael Parkinson in the studio, where she's like, well, I've seen it, so fuck you.
Yeah, and she's a scholar. She's not a...
What do they call them? Parapsychologists.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to argue, because you get people like Carmichael the Conjurer, who they have an answer for everything, and it's like, well, answer this, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I saw it with my own 2 eyes.
Yeah.
And it's not a coincidence. Most of characters who come up, like June, are often women, and their naysayers are often men, because it is very gaslighty and patriarchal to be like, oh no, you're just delirious, or you're, unhinged.
And it's so good as well, because the character of Lily, it can't be oversold how great she is in this movie.
He kind of wriggles his way inside my head, and then he wriggles his way out.
She is so unnerving.
Yeah.
Because she's constantly smiling, and the whole time you're like, is this actually Lily, or is this the demon?
Yeah, because Lily's backstory is that she was in that satanic cult who worshipped Abraxas, and she was raised in that, and they all died in a fire, and you're like, oh god.
Was she said it? Or...
Yeah, was she the sole survivor just by happenstance? Did she do something, or did they intentionally leave her alive as the sole survivor? And those thoughts run through your mind as she is giving her performance, because she wraps all that up into her acting.
Yeah, and I think also she says a lot of things where she may have just done research. She may have just looked into the perfunctory backstories of these people.
Yes.
But the way that she talks to them is if, no, she knows these people.
And it's a very interesting take on the trope, the young girl, sort of since The Exorcist, you know what I mean? It's been done a million times, but Reagan is obviously inherently innocent. That's what Reagan is as a character. Whereas Lily does not feel like that. She does not feel like the innocent young girl.
And she's also not like that fucking stupid, like, Exorcist believer in movies like that, where it's, like, manufactured scary. And I hate that. And that's what I hate so much about... I'm sure that it's come across by now. I'm not really that big a fan of supernatural horror. It's just not really my thing. I very much like Ju-on, movies like that. No, that is genuinely scary.
Yeah.
I don't like creepy kids. It is just not.
Yeah, no, I don't mind it. Sinister's alright. Exorcist is good.
But Sinister again.
I like Insidious. I like the good ones.
Yeah, 100%. And the good ones are great. And for me, this is one of the good ones.
We're going to have to review those Insidious movies at some point, because they get so shit.
Yeah.
I love those movies.
But yeah, I think it is genuinely creepy and unnerving. Visually, when she is possessed, she looks a lot like Reagan, obviously, in the makeup and stuff. But
yeah, I think the makeup's an obvious nod.
The voice that they use is great. You can hear her voice, but it's just layered and layered and layered with sort of multiple voices.
It's going anywhere.
How could you let it happen, Jack? How could you let it happen?
Again, it's genuinely creepy. It's not manufactured creepy, and I have such an issue with that. We both absolutely fucking hated Exorcist Believer. Like, one of the biggest pieces of shit I've ever seen.
I think it is my legitimate least favourite film I've ever seen. It overtook the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
It's more of an honest and reincarnation of The Exorcist.
What, this movie?
Yeah, than that movie. And that movie's called Exorcist Believer, you know what I mean? Like,
fuck David Gordon Green, he's a hack.
Not friend
on
of the
site,
pod,
bitch.
enemy of the pod. David Gordon Green.
Enemy of the pod, David Gordon Green.
To add to the many list of wrongdoers that we have. Naysayers. Idol Film Club hate list.
Yes.
But the execution of her possession is done very, very well. The only bit that's not grounded is the electricity stuff, which I still don't really get.
See, I really liked the bit with the theremin.
Gus, your time is... I got it, Jack. It's just a matter of...
I thought that was cool.
That was creepy.
Where it's like, whoa, and he's like, yo, Gus, stop using the theremin so much.
And it's set up.
Yeah, it's set up. It's set up and paid off lovely. But the electricity shit, not so much.
But as I said, what makes this movie so good is that all of those side characters, even Christou.
Tonight, medium and psychic Christou demonstrates how he speaks to the dead.
Well, Christou's great. I love that
great.
guy. He's
And
hilarious.
the fact that he just dies and Jack is just like, on with the show, and Gus is literally like, no, this guy fucking died. Like,
we've literally just aired someone's death.
It's
basically.
easy to forget about him because the rest of the movie goes so off the rails, but it is that ramping of tension where it's like, this guy, it's set up that he's a hoax, right? Because he puts out a poll Again, we sort of looked over this a little bit. It is sort of a good 20-minute chunk of the movie, but I think what comes after it is so... How far is this guy going to go before he says... And there's also a theme of people on the set and the cast and crew members are like, yeah, we shouldn't be doing this anymore. Like, something is wrong.
Oh, yeah, because at the end, they mentioned that some of the crew are just upping and leaving.
As they should. I mean, this is fucking mental. As well, for the time period back then, people were a lot more conservative. If you look at programs like Ghost Adventures, right? Zach Baggins.
What state do you live in? What state are we in right now?
Was this Spirit being a smartass?
In the 70s, things were a lot more conservative and a lot more religious. And I think to do an exorcism live on TV is fucking mental. Oh, not an exorcism, sorry. A seance.
Yes, a seance type thing. Yes, go watch Late Night with the Devil as soon as you can.
It's amazing.
It's
I had
wonderful.
a wonderful, wonderful time watching this movie.
I'm glad. And your voice is starting to sound better.
It has, yeah. I've lost my husky. My throat still fucking canes though.
We're going to be right back after these messages.
Do you want to have a little quiz?
I do. I'd love a little quiz.
We've got IMDb plot summaries of movies that are found footage. I think you've seen all of these.
Ooh.
There is 8. And fuck it, let's just get right in. I think you're going to do well here. Plot 1. After moving into a suburban home, a couple becomes increasingly disturbed by a demonic presence.
That is literally every single fucking
Very generic.
found footage movie.
But think of the
Paranormal Activity.
Correct.
Ooh.
Question 2. Also, none of these are the Blair Witch Project. So bear that in mind. I thought that was far too obvious. During a rescue mission into the Amazon rainforest, a professor stumbles across... I wish. I'm going to reshoot Madam Web shot for shot, but it's found footage.
Awesome.
A professor stumbles across a lost film shot by a missing documentary crew.
Cannibal Holocaust.
Correct. You got any thoughts on Cannibal Holocaust? It's good.
It's sort of good.
it's despicable,
but it's so racist.
It's
and one of those productions where everyone was exploited.
Even the turtles.
Yeah, it's actually quite good, but I do not condone this movie.
I'm not recommending Cannibal Holocaust. Don't watch it.
Don't watch it, and you probably won't like it.
No one will like it. Question 3. When a team of explorers venture into the catacombs that lie beneath the streets of Paris, they uncover the dark secret that lies within this city of the dead.
As Above, So Below?
Correct. I love that movie.
Yeah, maybe I need to rewatch it. I wasn't a fan.
I love it. The woman the main character is really annoying though. She's an English lady and it's very irritating.
Giving Hell House LLC Origins Carmichael Manor or whatever that fucking movie is called.
Question 4. A television reporter and cameraman follow emergency workers into a dark apartment building and are quickly locked inside with something terrifying.
Wreck? Quarantine.
It's Wreck. I left a little pause to see if you were going to guess Quarantine.
Yeah.
Both good movies. I love Wreck. I think it's great.
People love that movie. I'm just not really into found footage.
Question 5. A young videographer answers an online ad for a one-day job in a remote town to record the last messages of a dying man. When he notices the man's odd behaviour, he starts to question his intentions.
Another great character actor.
Mark Duplass?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's a good director as well.
Creep.
Yeah, Creep is great. Creep 2 is great as well.
That last shot of Creep.
The axe.
Really creeps me out.
Ooh.
I didn't like the rest of the movie. It's far too... He is so annoying.
He's funny as fuck in that movie. In both those movies, I'm a big Mark Duplass
yeah.
guy. Baghead's great.
We just I mean, you've seen it lots of times before, but I, for the first time, watched Pusher 2.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Mads Mikkelsen's character in that, he is just a fucking nuisance. He is so annoying.
I love an
And
annoying
it really reminded me of Mark Duplass. It's just like, bro, shut up. Like, you are so annoying.
Wreaking havoc.
Yeah, just go away.
Question... What is this? 6. Strange things start happening after a girl is found drowned in a lake.
Lake Mungo.
Lake Mungo is correct. I'm not a huge fan of Lake Mungo.
I didn't like that either.
People fucking love that movie. Another Australian movie.
Yeah.
Another Australian movie that got released from Second Sight. Question 7. 6 friends hire a medium to hold a seance via Zoom during lockdown.
Ooh, Host.
Host, you mentioned that before. That is a great movie if you want to watch. If you want a good short movie, it's like
Check
50
that
minutes
out.
long.
The length of a Zoom call, whatever that is, 55 minutes?
Something like that. But
65 minutes?
It's really, really good.
Amazing.
Yeah, I can't recommend that enough. That was a Shudder release.
I got perfect mark.
I know, you got one last question.
Oh.
This is the hard one as well.
Oh, okay, go.
In Italy, a woman becomes involved in a series of unauthorized exorcisms during her mission to discover what happened to her mother, who allegedly murdered 3 people during her own exorcism.
Oh.
I think it's from about 2012. This is difficult, this one, because it's such a non-movie. It was the glut of post-Conjuring demon movies.
This could be any of those shite post-Conjuring. The Devil Inside?
It is The Devil Inside. Very well done.
Have you seen that?
I think we watched it we went through and watched a lot of exorcism movies.
We didn't watch that together.
Did we not?
I watched it as a teenager, and I don't
maybe I haven't
think...
seen it then.
Shite.
Anyway, well done. 4 marks.
Yay.
That concludes this week's episode of Idle Film Club.
Season 2, episode 1.
We're off the mark.
Thank you for bearing with us over our little hiatus. We've come back. We're feeling refreshed.
Yes, some more refreshed than others. Some throats more lubricated than others. So thank you for listening.
We have no idea what lays on the horizon.
To be honest, I haven't even thought about what we're doing next week. It'll be good.
Yeah.
So come along and follow us on Instagram at Idle Film Club to find out, because we'll announce it this week, probably.
TikTok, Instagram, YouTube.
Oh, we're going to start doing video content very soon. I know we said that last time, but it's going to happen.
We've figured it out now, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you as always.
Fabulous week, and
speak to you soon.
Bye.
I don't like these movies.
Get real.
And I saw that movie 20 goddamn times!
Just consume violence. I watch violent movies. Yeah, violent movies are the best movies.
Having so much fun and
So once again, no smoking in this theater.